In this video, I'm going to show you how to correctly clean your Nintendo Switch 2. So this will be a 3-stage process. Stage 1 is the one that most people are going to need, and hopefully you don't need to move beyond that, but even if you do, stage 2 and 3 are totally doable. The first thing we want to do is remove the Joy-Cons, and then give everything a good wipe down. I'm just going to be using a cleaning cloth for this, and the one I link in the description works well for this. It won't cause any damage on the Joy-Con. And this is just giving it a good overall cleaning. This is also something that is safe for screens. So we'll go over the screen and then the back case as well. And then the other Joy-Con too. And obviously you'll need to do a better job than I'm doing here. I'm just kind of giving you an overview of what needs to be done. Now I'll just use a microfiber cloth just to clean off any of the liquid or residue. There we go. Just like that. Now one of the places you'll likely need to focus on are the joysticks. You can use a cleaning cloth to get down in there just like this. Another thing you can use is something like a toothpick, especially in these little grooves. A toothpick will just get right down in there and get any dust, debris, finger cheese, anything that's in there, and it will get that right out. Now while you're here, it is good to clean out the inside of the analog stick. And how you do that is you can move this little shield over the hole through the analog stick, just like that. And with that up like that, you can use some BW100 to just spray in there. And then wiggle the stick up and down, back and forth. And that will clean out your analog stick. This will also help with stick drift if it's dirty inside. If the analog stick is worn out, this won't help that. And the last thing we need to clean on the Joy-Cons is right where it connects to the switch. There's a connector on the side of the switch that goes right into this slot. Now we can use some BW100 and spray it in there, and then use a brush and just brush back and forth to clean those contacts. Just like that. Another thing we can use is a tiny cleaning swab like this, and we can just go back and forth on each of those pins. Just like that. Now another part of the stage 1 cleaning is cleaning the air intakes on both the tablet and the dock. For the tablet, air comes in here and air exits up here. So what we want to do is clean these ports out right here, and you can use a cleaning brush just like this. Go back and forth like I'm doing right now. You can also use a can of canned air to come in and spray those out. If they still look dirty inside, we'll get to that in stage 2, but this is as far as we go in stage 1. We can also clean out the top right here. This likely won't be dirty, but if you need to, you can just use the cleaning brush and just clean that out. What you see right down in there are the heatsink fins. So we do want to be careful not to put anything metal down there to bend them, but a stiff cleaning brush with bristles that are bendable will work just fine. Now let's move on to the dock. On the back side of the dock is where the air intake is. It's right here and also right here. So you may have to clean it out right here, but we also might need to remove this part, so we just pull up right here and that just comes right off. And then we can get right down here and give that a good cleaning. The intake holes are right at the bottom of these slots, and then again, right here. And we can come in with our canned air again, spray all through there, and spray down in there. The air vents out the top, so you likely won't have any dust or debris up here, but if you do, you can do the same thing and just use a cleaning brush there. And the last thing we're gonna clean as part of our stage 1 cleaning is the USB-C port on the bottom and the top. What I like to use is BW100. You can use a similar contact cleaner. And then this tiny brush can go right in and get each pin of that USB-C connector on the top and the bottom side. Now, if there is gunk built up down in there that you can see, you can use a toothpick to try and get down there. You just have to be super careful that you don't break the toothpick off into the port. You don't want to use anything metal because touching the wrong pins can short out the system and cause your switch to not work anymore. And then it's just the same thing with the USB-C port on the bottom. And with those cleaned, we can move on to stage 2. Stage 2 is the fun part. I'm going to take the tablet without the Joy-Cons, lay down a microfiber cloth, and put the tablet face down on that microfiber cloth. Then I'll lift up on the kickstand and reveal 2 Y00 screws. We've got one over here and one over here. After those are removed, we can switch our bit to the PH000. We've got one screw on the top, 2 screws on the bottom. And then the fun part, we need to remove the sticker on this side and the other side. Now I use a metal dental pick for this, but you can use something like a toothpick. It's not going to be as easy. It's going to be quite a bit more difficult with a toothpick, but it totally is doable. We just need to slide it right under here to kind of start getting that sticker loose, just like you can see right now. I'm going to switch to my dental pick because that's what I prefer. Now as we go, I'm just kind of loosening as we go. And you're probably honestly going to destroy the sticker. This is, in my opinion, not a good design, but that's what they went with. And so that's what we have to deal with. If you destroy the sticker and it doesn't fit back on here again, that's also fine. You don't need this sticker. It just obviously looks better. Okay. And now that sticker is loose from that side, we can just continue pulling up and it'll come off just like that. Once that sticker is removed, it reveals 2 more screws. One here and one here. And once that's done, we get to do it again on this side. Once you have those stickers and screws removed, we can pry up on the back plate right here. Just gonna move my pry tool along so we can lift the back plate over the USB-C port right there, and then continue going along here. You can see it's already almost up. So I'm just gonna keep lifting and kind of push up as I go. There we go. And then we can remove the back plate. So this is as far as we want to go for stage 2. We have access to the fan and the heatsink. That's the main thing we're trying to get at in stage 2. With access to the fan, we can use our cleaning brush and clean the entire fan out. Now we can't get up under the heatsink with our brush, but we can use canned air to do that. I'm gonna put my finger on the fan so it doesn't spin, and then use canned air all around the fan, just like that. And then we can point our canned air towards the heatsink and clean the heatsink as well. That will push any dust and debris up and out of the heatsink. And the last part of stage 2 is if you need to clean these intake grills any better, you can do that just with a brush, just like that. And with that back cover removed, you have a little bit better access to the inside, though you can't totally get inside them. Another part of stage 2 is cleaning the back cover. If you have a lot of dust and debris inside your system, then you will likely need to clean the inside of this out. It'll probably be pretty dusty. So you can use a cleaning wipe. You can use IPA on a cotton bud. You can use canned air, and honestly, it's probably going to be best to use some of all of the above. Probably going to be especially dirty down here where the air intake is. Now, if you still need to clean this more, or if you want to replace the thermal paste, we'll move on to stage 3 where we do that. So stage 3 gets a little bit complicated, so be sure to pay attention to these step-by-step instructions. First, we need to remove all the screws out of the metal plate. The first thing I'm going to do is remove these antennas, remove this antenna, and this antenna, and this antenna, and then all of the screws out of the metal plate, including the screws out of the SD card slot. Now, as you can see, as I'm removing these screws, these pieces of the antenna are coming along with the screws. That's fine, that's totally normal. We've got 2 more screws securing this antenna, and you need to keep track of these screws for each antenna because these 2 are longer than the rest. Now for this one, we just need to lift up on it, and we need to get this foam piece lifted away from the heat pipe. Now we need to disconnect the white antenna cable. Speakers will be loose during this time, so don't worry about that. Then we can remove this silver screw, then the black screw, and then we can disconnect the connector for the SD card slot. There we go. And now we need to deroute this gray cable It's going to be along here and kind of down inside the case right here. So we need to deroute that, pull it up and along here and under this tab, just like that. Now it's time to remove the screws out of this metal plate. And with those 4 screws removed, we can remove this metal plate. It'll come up all as one piece, just like that. We also will have some pink thermal paste under there, so be careful not to get the thermal paste all over on the bottom of the plate. Now the first thing to do after you remove that metal plate is disconnect the battery. That will ensure that you don't short anything out when you're working in here. There we go. Just use a little pry tool and pry straight up on it. Now we're almost to the place where we can replace all of the thermal paste. We need to remove the heat pipe, then we can also clean the heat pipe, and then we need to remove this metal plate as well. The heat pipe has 3 000 Phillips screws, and with those removed, we can gently pry up on the heat pipe. It's going to be kind of stuck on there. It is stuck down by thermal paste. Now we don't want to just lift up really quickly on this because this is a very thin heat pipe and it can bend. So I'm going to put some pressure right here while I move the heat pipe this way. This will help it release from this adhesive back here. Now once that's done, you see we have really good access to this heat pipe. We can just use some canned air, just spray right through there. That'll get that factory clean. Now that we have that heat sink removed, we can also clean the fan really well. We can shoot canned air right through these grooves and just clean any dirt and debris right out of the fan that might be caught in there. The last thing to do is remove this metal plate to get down to the thermal paste between the metal plate and the main chip on the board. Now it is pretty tricky to do this. You can use a pry tool to pry up on the metal plate. Now I use a metal dental pick for this. This is not the safest way to do it. It's just the way I'm used to doing it. So it's better to use something plastic because you don't risk damaging the board. The main thing here is be careful what you're prying on. You don't want to pry on any of these little components. You want to, if you're going to pry on something, you need to just pry right down on the green board. Now I'm going to switch to the plastic pry tool just because I want to make sure I don't pry up on anything I shouldn't be prying up on. And we almost have it. There we go. Just going to kind of wiggle this metal plate around now, and that should release the rest of the clips. There we go, just like that. And here is where the rest of the thermal paste is. So we need to clean this side, and then this main chip. How I usually clean thermal paste is just with a dry cotton bud. There are certainly other ways to do it, but that's how I like to do it. Now this part is pretty difficult to clean because it feels just like a piece of paper over this. It's kind of like a thin piece of copper, but it's kind of hard to clean because of that. So just take your time, be careful, support it on the back with your finger or something else, and clean it up just like this. Okay, and now the chip is clean, this metal shield is clean. Now it's time to reapply the new thermal paste. Now you may notice there is little bits of thermal paste on this chip down here. That's fine, you can clean it off if you want. You don't have to. If you do decide to clean it off, just don't use anything that can break these chips off, because then you've got a much bigger problem on your hands. There are lots of kinds of thermal paste you can use for this. I'm just going to use some Arctic Silver 5, and that'll work just fine. There we go. Doesn't really matter if you have too much, you just don't want to have too little. Once that's on, then we will put this metal plate back on and clip it down, just like that. And now we'll clean the thermal paste off of this. Okay, and there we go. Now we need to clean the thermal paste off of the bottom side of the heat pipe. This also doesn't have to be perfect. We just want to get all the thermal paste off of this metal part. If it's on the copper, that's fine. Then we will apply more thermal paste onto this metal piece. Just like that. Now we can reinstall the heat pipe. I'm going to push down on these mounting brackets just to kind of seat that thermal paste on there. and push down on the heat pipe to make sure that the adhesive secures it down. Then we can reinstall these screws. Now we need to remove the pink thermal paste. Now this isn't regular thermal paste, it's more of like a viscous thermal paste. So that's what we need to reinstall once we get it removed. Now the thermal paste I'm using for this, I will have linked in the description if you want to get some for yourself. But it is a more viscous thermal paste. It's a little bit thicker. It's not going to run as much as regular thermal paste. And it is important that you put that on this part of the heat pipe. And really that's about all we need. That's plenty. We don't even need that much, but I'd rather have too much than not enough. Now the first thing we need to remember to do is reconnect the battery. Made that mistake once or twice of not reconnecting it. There we go. And now we can set the metal plate down onto the rest of the console, right where it goes. We got a pin over here and a pin right here. And we need to press down where that viscous thermal paste is just to kind of get it to spread out. There we go. Now we can put the 4 screws back into the metal plate. Then the silver screw here and the black screw here for the SD card reader. Of course, we need to remember to plug the SD card reader back in. Need to line it up, and then you'll hear a click once it is fully seated. Then we need to put this antenna back in place. We have 2 silver long screws that go back in this antenna. Then we need to route this gray antenna wire under this tab right here, and then up and through this channel along the side, just like this. And then down, way down under here, there's kind of like a little groove this fits in, way under here. And then right between this screw and this plastic piece, and then kind of down in between this little tab and the magnet. Now we need to hook all the antennas back up. Usually they line up pretty well on their own. You might have to realign them a little bit. I just use my fingernails to grab them. If that's not working for you, you can use a pair of tweezers and just kind of line it up. You want to go straight over the connector and then just press straight down. And when you get it right, you'll hear them click into place. And we have this antenna over here. I'm going to pull the screw out. We've got one little locating tab for that side. And then it'll just kind of slip right into place and you can put the screws in. One screw there and one screw on the bottom. Then we have this antenna over here. You can see our viscous thermal paste is kind of squishing out the edge. So I'm gonna take care of that. It's not a big deal, but might as well just clean it up so it doesn't get in the way of anything or get smeared onto anything else, especially this antenna we're about to install. I don't think it would, but never know. Just like that. Then the 3 screws. For the back cover, I'm going to make sure the groove for the USB-C port is over the port and then kind of push it down like that. And then flip it up. You need to make sure that this USB-C port lines up through this groove, just like that. Just need to push down all the way around, make sure everything is seated, and then we can put the screws in. So 2 screws go in each end. These are they're kind of like gold screws. So that's how you know which ones go in the end. After that, you can install the stickers, orange on the right, blue on the left. Just like that. And just kind of use something to press that down. And then the same thing on this side. Just kind of flop it down in there and let it seat itself and then use something to press it down. And now we can put the screws in. We've got 1 black Phillips on the top, 2 black Phillips on the bottom, and the 2 tri-wings under the kickstand. And that's all it takes to fully clean your Nintendo Switch 2. If there are other repairs you need to do for your Nintendo Switch 2, I highly recommend checking out our other channel, Tronics Guide. I'll put a link for that channel up on your screen now, so you can click on that to find out how to do a lot more repairs on your Nintendo Switch 2. Thanks so much for watching today, and I hope you have a good one.